The news hit Africa like a shockwave. President Trump, in his infinite wisdom, decided to suspend USAID funding. He called it a review. We call it a catastrophe. Across the continent, life-saving programs are grinding to a halt. Clinics are closing. Healthcare workers are losing their jobs. Remember that number $8 billion. That's how much America pumps into Africa annually. Now imagine that tap being shut off. That's the reality we're facing. From Ethiopia to Somalia, from the DRC to Kenya, the impact is devastating. This isn't just about numbers on a balance sheet, it's about real lives. Mothers who can't get HIV treatment for their babies. Children going to bed hungry because food programs have been cut. It's a moral outrage. But Africa is rich in natural resources and potential. The path to self-reliance is through harnessing these resources. Investing in education, local businesses, and sustainable farming can pave the way for a brighter future. Here's the irony. Africa is a continent overflowing with riches. Diamonds, gold, oil, you name it, we've got it. So why are we still begging for handouts? The answer is as old as time itself: greed and corruption. Our leaders, many of whom have been in power for decades, would rather line their own pockets than invest in their people. They preach self-reliance while they're busy stashing cash in Swiss bank accounts. And then there's the conflict. Wars fueled by ethnic tensions, religious extremism, and the insatiable hunger for resources. Instead of building schools and hospitals, we're buying weapons and funding militias. It's a vicious cycle of self-destruction. Let's talk about these so-called leaders for a moment. Some of them have been clinging to power since before I was born. They rigged elections, silenced dissent, and looted their countries dry. And what have they achieved? After decades in power, they still haven't figured out how to feed their own people. They come cap in hand to the West, pleading for aid, while their citizens starve. It's shameful. It's time for a new generation of leaders. Leaders who understand that their duty is to serve the people, not themselves. Leaders who will invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Leaders who will finally unleash Africa's true potential. It's easy to get lost in the numbers. When we talk about aid and development, the figures can be overwhelming. Billions of dollars allocated, millions of lives touched. But what do these numbers really mean? Billions of dollars here, millions of beneficiaries there. These figures represent more than just financial transactions. They signify dependency and a reliance on external aid. But behind the statistics are real stories. Stories of dependency, stories of communities waiting for help. Each number is a person, a family, a community whose life has been shaped by external aid. Stories that illustrate the impact of relying on USAID's work. These are narratives of communities dependent on external support and of individuals waiting for opportunities that may never come. In Kenya, USAID's Fahari ya Jamii program provided HIV treatment and support to over 72,000 people. This program offered medical care, but it also created a dependency on external aid for those living with HIV. It employed 700 healthcare workers and ran 150 clinics. These clinics were more than just buildings, they were symbols of reliance on foreign aid. Now those clinics are closed and over 1 million Kenyans living with HIV are left wondering where to turn. The closure of these facilities has left a void that is deeply felt by the communities they served. In Nigeria, USAID has been instrumental in combating malaria, providing mosquito nets and supporting indoor spraying campaigns. These efforts, while beneficial, have also fostered a reliance on external interventions. It's also been a key player in the fight against HIV/AIDS, providing antiretroviral drugs and funding prevention programs. These initiatives, though life-saving, have not encouraged self-reliance. These programs have saved lives, but they have also created a cycle of dependency. The challenge now is to shift towards self-reliance and sustainable solutions. These are just two examples among many. Across the globe, USAID's initiatives have made a difference, but they have also highlighted the need for self-sufficiency and the utilization of natural resources. USAID's work touches every corner of the continent, from improving agricultural practices to promoting democracy and good governance. However, the focus must now shift to empowering local communities to harness their own resources. Its absence will be deeply felt. The void left behind is not just in services but in the hope and progress that these programs represented. The challenge now is to find ways to continue this vital work and ensure that the gains made are not lost. Section 5, Africa's untapped potential, a sleeping giant. Let's be clear. Africa is not a charity case. It's a continent rich in culture, history, and innovation. We are a continent brimming with potential. Our people are resilient, creative, and driven. We have the youngest population in the world, a growing middle class, and a hunger for progress. Our land is rich with a wealth of natural resources, from minerals to fertile soil. We have the potential to be a global powerhouse in agriculture. Our farmers are dedicated and innovative. Imagine a world where Africa feeds itself and exports its surplus to the rest of the planet. And then there's tourism. Our landscapes and wildlife are unparalleled. From the pyramids of Egypt to the Serengeti Plains, our heritage is rich and diverse. Africa is home to some of the most breathtaking natural wonders on Earth. We have the potential to be a top tourist destination, attracting visitors from all corners of the globe. Our hospitality is unmatched, and our stories are waiting to be shared. But we also have the brains and the skills to be a leader in manufacturing, technology, and innovation. Our industries are growing, and our entrepreneurs are breaking new ground. We are at the forefront of technological advancements and creative solutions. All we need is the right leadership and the right investment. With these, the sleeping giant will awaken and Africa will rise to its full potential. We cannot talk about Africa's challenges without acknowledging the role of colonialism. For centuries, European powers carved up our continent, exploiting our resources and leaving a legacy of poverty, instability, and conflict. They drew borders that made no sense, pitting ethnic groups against each other. They imposed systems of governance that were designed to benefit them, not us. And even after they granted us independence, they continued to meddle in our affairs, propping up dictators and undermining democratic movements. The scars of colonialism run deep. But we cannot use the past as an excuse for inaction. It's time to break free from the chains of history and forge our own destiny. Let's talk about Ghana, a country blessed with an abundance of gold. This precious metal has been a cornerstone of Ghana's economy for centuries, attracting miners and investors from around the world. You'd think they'd be rolling in it, right? With such a rich resource, prosperity should be a given. But that's far from the reality. Instead of using this wealth to benefit its people, Ghana's elite has been caught up in scandal after scandal, accused of siphoning off profits and leaving the country with a pittance. The corruption runs deep, affecting every level of society. Then there's Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer. The country sits on vast reserves of oil, a resource that should have transformed it into an economic powerhouse. You know the story, oil wealth, but the people are poor. Despite the billions generated from oil, the wealth never seems to trickle down to the average Nigerian. Corruption is so deeply entrenched that it's practically a national sport. Politicians and their cronies have been accused of stealing billions of dollars, leaving the country's infrastructure in ruins and its people mired in poverty. Politicians and their cronies have been accused of stealing billions of dollars, leaving the country's infrastructure in ruins and its people mired in poverty. The disparity between the rich and the poor is staggering. These are just two examples of a continent-wide problem. Across Africa, countries rich in natural resources face similar issues. We have the resources, but we lack the leadership and the good governance to manage them effectively. The potential for growth and prosperity is immense, yet it remains untapped. We're squandering our blessings while our people suffer. It's a tragic irony that in the midst of such wealth, so many live in poverty. The need for change is urgent, and the time to act is now. My fellow Africans, it's time to wake up. We cannot continue to rely on handouts from the West. We cannot allow our leaders to squander our resources while our people starve. We cannot let the mistakes of the past dictate our future. This USAID suspension, as devastating as it is a wake-up call. It's a reminder that we cannot depend on others to solve our problems. We must take control of our own destiny. We need to demand accountability from our leaders. We need to invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. We need to create an environment where businesses can thrive and entrepreneurs can flourish. The path to self-reliance will be long and arduous, but I am confident that we can get there. We have the resilience, the creativity, and the determination to overcome any obstacle. Let us draw inspiration from our ancestors, who fought tirelessly for our freedom. Let us remember their sacrifices and honor their legacy by building a brighter future for generations to come. The time for begging is over. The time for action is now. Let us rise up and build the Africa we know we can be. An Africa that is prosperous, peaceful, and self-reliant. An Africa that takes its rightful place on the world stage. This is our time. This is our moment. Let us seize it with both hands.